Hi, this is Nanette Hosenfeld of the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Wednesday, July 7th, 2021. Looking at fire potential impacts over the next few days, we will see periods of wind and lightning across the Great Basin. Today, we are expecting areas with wind gusts greater than 30 miles an hour combined with low relative humidity. Those areas are highlighted in orange. We're also expecting to see some isolated dry thunderstorms across portions of eastern Idaho and into far western Wyoming. As we move into Thursday, we will see a more widespread area of winds that will be mainly across the northern half of Nevada and reaching into southern southwestern Idaho. And then on Friday, that area of wind shifts east, and we begin to see the potential for some isolated dry thunderstorms across the far southern part of the Great Basin, as well as the Sierra. Over the past 24 hours, just a few lightning strikes and not much in the way of precipitation across the Great Basin. A few new starts yesterday across the Great Basin, along with some ongoing larger fires in the area. Looking at precipitation over the past 14 days, it's really been quite dry across the western part of the Great Basin. We did see some monsoonal moisture move into the southern and southeastern part of the Great Basin. That brought some wet thunderstorms that helped out across the south as far as precipitation. But further to the north and west, things have dried out quite a bit over the past 14 days. This is looking at a two-week drought index, and that also really reflects how dry things have been across the central and northern part of the Great Basin over the past 2 weeks. So really exceptionally dry across those areas where we've also seen record heat for pretty long periods of time. ERCs across the Great Basin are generally above the 70th percentile, looking at some stations that 90 to 96th percentile. Some of the stations across the southern part of the Great Basin have trended downwards a bit with the recent monsoonal moisture. However, even with that, many of those stations are still in the 80 to 89th percentile range, and we are looking at a general upward trend across the northern and western part of the area. If we continue to look at those trends, GB33, which is in southwestern Utah, did take quite the dip last week with that moisture, but they have begun to recover. You can see that trend line increasing again. And GB8 in southeastern Idaho, again, came close to record max values, saw a bit of a drop, but still above normal, and we are seeing above normal ERCs across much of the northern part of the Great Basin with the hotter and drier weather in that area. Satellite this morning shows high pressure in place across the Great Basin. With that in place, we are expecting another hot day. For today, we have a high risk out for those winds expected this afternoon, as well as the potential for some isolated lightning across the central Idaho mountains. Looking at wind gusts and relative humidity today, you can see the area of Idaho. I expected to see those wind gusts in that 20 to 30 mile an hour range, with relative humidities right on that critical threshold range. It's going to be hot again today and for the next couple of days. On the left is our maximum temperature forecast, so really a lot of hundreds there on the map, a really exceptionally hot day. The image on the right shows how those temperatures compare to normal, and you can see almost the entire Great Basin 10 to 20 degrees above normal depending on where you are. And then finally for this afternoon, looking at the potential for lightning across the portions of the central Idaho mountains. Moving into Thursday, an upper low moving to the northwestern part of the Great Basin will lead to gusty winds across western Nevada as well as dry conditions. If we look at Thursday in more detail, you can see those wind gusts there on the left, expected to be in that 20 to 30 mile an hour range, combined with low relative humidities. Then looking at lightning for Thursday with that drier air moving in, just the potential for some very isolated storms across a higher terrain of Utah. As we move into Friday, looking at moisture increase across the southern part of the Great Basin, expecting some winds across the northeastern part of the area as another upper level low moves by to the northern part of the Great Basin. If we look at Friday in more detail, again you can see those gusty winds across northeastern portions of the Great Basin combined with critically dry relative humidity across much of the area. And as far as lightning on Friday, again, really isolated storms, potential for some isolated lightning across a higher terrain of Utah and into western Nevada. Over the next 3 days, really not much in the way of precipitation is expected. As we move into Saturday, we keep some moisture in place across the southern part of the Great Basin. We'd expect to see some isolated lightning across a higher terrain areas, and the potential for gusty winds across southeastern Utah. So moving to Sunday, keeping that dry air in place across the northern part of the Great Basin, we expect to continue to see isolated storms with that moisture trapped under the ridge on Sunday. And then moving into Monday, looking at more of an increase of that moisture across the southern part of the Great Basin. And then continuing into Tuesday, looking at that moisture remaining in place across the southern part of the Great Basin, we'd expect to continue to see thunderstorms across the south, as well as windier conditions across the north ahead of another upper low moving into the eastern Pacific. Over the next 7 days, we could see some wetting rains across the central and southern part of the Great Basin as that monsoonal moisture returns from the south later in the week. An 8 to 14 day outlook, the Climate Prediction Center is calling for above normal temperatures for the entire area. Also looking at below normal precipitation for the entire Great Basin, but there is that area above normal precipitation across the southwest, and that does hint at the return of the monsoon. This takes us through July 20th. That's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our information is on the screen, and you can also find us on Twitter. Thanks.